Hi, welcome to Sneakers and Strategies. I'm your host, Nick Kastner. My plan is for this to be a weekly podcast ranging from me talking about current marketing topics and also interviewing some of my friends and colleagues along the way. In my non-podcast life, I serve as the Director of Brand and Digital Strategy at Forum Communications. Forum Communications is a full-service marketing agency based in the southeastern United States, and we focus on helping clients find their voice in a crowded marketplace. I'll forewarn you, being the first episode, I made a few rookie mistakes. One of those is the gain staging on my microphone. The second was I had a cold when we did the episode, so that becomes apparent as you listen throughout. But I will say the episode is great. I had a great person to interview, and in the first episode, as you'll learn, I interviewed my friend and partner in content creation, AJ Parker. AJ and I have worked on a lot of projects over the years, and you'll learn he's the reason why we're actually kicking off this podcast. So with that, we're going to get to the interview. Thanks again for listening, and if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for that, and let's get to the show. Our guest today is actually the inspiration of this podcast, AJ Parker. He and I were on a business trip together in Pensacola, Florida, and he had encouraged me to start a podcast. I'm sure we'll talk about that today. So a few months later, here we are. AJ is the founder and director of AJ Parker Media. He's a video director and storyteller at heart. For over 15 years, he's developed his craft and built a production company to serve clients who have unique stories to tell and need an amazing video to tell it. His home base is in Atlanta. However, they serve clients all over the country and have had the honor of working with some familiar brand names, including Chick-fil-A, Wrigley, the Zach Brown Band, many of our clients at Forum, and difference maker nonprofits, including Ronald McDonald House Charities, Habitat for Humanity, and the Boys and Girls Club of America. So in every project, he and the team at AJ Parker Media set out to create positive and unforgettable experiences both on screen and off. That means they want you to love what they create for you, but also want you to enjoy the process of creating it with them. So with that, AJ, welcome to our first ever episode of Sneakers and Strategies.
Nick, man, that introduction makes me sound, and what we do makes it sound important.
Well, it is important. So
that's pretty great. Hey, I'm thrilled to be your first one for your first interview.
Yeah, I'm excited. I have no idea what to expect. Being the first time I've ever hosted a podcast, we'll certainly see how it goes. My daughter actually has a friend who started a podcast, and their podcast is ridiculous. Like, they talk about like what they play in the front yard, but that will not be what this is about, right?
So no,
yeah.
I'd love to know what you do in the front yard, but I love the kind of the intro you gave, the strategy behind this. And you and I, 9 months ago, first started this discussion. Is that right?
Yeah. It was not Sneakers and Strategies.
We were talking.
First. Right. It was not Sneakers and Strategies first, though.
No, we bounced around a few ideas, but tell me, like, what's your like vision, like your goal, like before we get started, like, just so I know, what are you like trying to do with this podcast? I mean, or how are you like, pouring into other people through this? Like, what's your goal?
We work with a lot of businesses that need a lot of marketing help. And, many times some of them can afford it. Some of them can't afford it. And, having been in marketing as long as I have, I felt like it was actually time to start sharing some of the things that I know. So that's really where it started, was that. And, at Forum, we do so much work and so much cool work that, I don't think that we always do a good job of sharing it. So I'm hoping it's an opportunity to do that as well.
Yeah, that's cool. And I love that you're tying in one of your passions, which is sneakers. I think that's cool.
Yeah. So, which is weird. I never thought I'd be a sneakerhead, but here we are. So
I just want to be like you when I grow up. That's the deal.
That's what it is. Okay. Yeah. So how did you get started in video?
On accident, to be honest with you. I went to school for marketing and communications. And so, I came out of school and had, a out of college job. It was in the marketing department, actually, for a nonprofit. So my family, my dad, like we've been a nonprofit family for generations. Right. And so always had that kind of in the blood. And so I was working for a nonprofit out of college in the marketing department, and they hired a video guy, and I was the first video guy on staff, and he'd been there a few months, and I just knew him. And one day he says, "Hey man, can you help me with the video shoot I have on Friday?" And I said, dude, I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about video. He said, no, no, no. I mean, can you help me carry the heavy cases from the car into the studio and back out? And I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. It's better than sitting at the desk. Right. And so I said, yes. And I tell you what, I walked into that studio space and it was small and it was, nothing super fancy or special, but I tell you what, the minute I saw, all the gear and the way he interacted with the talent, just watching the process, I was hooked from that moment. And so from there, he let me shadow, he let me just listen, ask questions when it was appropriate. And over the course of, I don't know, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, like I just soaked up everything I could and realized that this is the direction I wanted to go with my career. It was still in marketing and strategy and all that stuff, but it was a niche that I felt was meant for me. And so it all started with that guy at that nonprofit. And I see him every once in a while still and thank him all the time for shifting my career in a totally different direction.
Sure. Yeah. So I know obviously it's shifted now even further, right? So what draws you really to creating content? Like, I mean, what is it about creating content that you love so much?
Yeah, I love telling a good story. So I said that we kind of have, nonprofit or whatever, purpose driven work kind of in our family, in our blood. Right. And so, we're it's amazing for me to be able to tell those stories. Right. So there's some amazing people doing amazing work all over the world. And those are some of my favorite projects where I get to tell the story behind someone that's making an impact, right? They're making a difference. And so I have kind of translated that into corporate business, I guess you could say, for brands and for your products and services and things. But I think where I've kind of found my niche is making that emotional connection for folks, so that it's not just pushing an agenda or a brand, but finding the story behind it, the meaning behind it, the people behind it. And so I like to say that we create amazing videos for people who have unique stories to tell. And so, to be quite honest with you, sometimes it's not a unique story to tell, and those are a little bit harder to do. But I really do love telling other people's story. There's a lot of people doing amazing things, and I love to share their story.
Sure. So, obviously, I mean, I think that's what makes a good brand story, right? I mean, having something really compelling to tell. So it's not, as many times, because I know you work with a lot of businesses, you work with our clients, and a lot of times they're focused on selling a product, but at the end of the day, that's not why they're in business, right? So they're in business for something bigger than that. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, totally. And, a lot of times businesses are solving a problem for people, and the product is great, but the way they're telling their story or the way they're positioning their service is they're positioning as this is how much it costs and this is where you can get it, but to your point, there's something a lot bigger going on there. They're actually trying to help solve a problem for people. And they're, unfortunately, a lot of cases, they're just not sharing that in the right way. And so you guys do a great job of doing that through all your formats as well. So video is the one that just works best for my personality, of course.
Sure. And I think statistically it shows that, right? So how do you see video content? What's important today? What's important today in communicating using video?
Yeah. Story has always been important, right? So, presenting the problem with a potential solution, all that is going to always be important. I think that we're finding that, I think, with all the social platforms and things now too, where people it's so story driven, right? It's so, I don't know, it's just not information anymore, like it used to be information all the time, and the internet was just about finding information. And now we're all seeking something funny or emotional or, something that we can identify with. Right. And that's usually done through stories. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. What was your original question? Because I might have gotten like side tangent.
No. So I think it's on point. So statistically, right? So
yeah,
statistically, online video makes up over 80% of all consumer internet traffic. 78% of people watch video online weekly, 55% every day, 54% of consumers want to see more video content from businesses because it helps tell the story a little easier. 95% of viewers retain the message in the video, and only 10% retain the message that they read. And then 72% say they'd rather learn about products and services via video. So when we talk about the importance of video, right? So that was the initial question, like how is video content important in communication today? I think you're right. Like the people want to see the story. It's not just information. Um, how do most of your clients utilize video?
I want to answer that question, but I also think on that last one about, all the stats or whatever, I think one of the things too that is possibly true, and I'm just thinking about it now really, is that I think video is, in today's world of Photoshop and all that stuff, video feels more authentic, I think. You can still fake stuff via video. I mean, we do amazing lighting and stuff like that to make something look better than it might, in person or whatever. But I think that video inherently feels more authentic than maybe a photo. How many times have you looked on Airbnb or a hotel website and the photos look amazing from from the marketing material, right? And so you kind of sometimes you go do the Google Street View or whatever to see, is that what it really looks like? You know what I mean? And then if they have video stuff or someone's posted like raw video, unedited, not from the marketing company, like we get a real sense of what that property actually feels and looks like, right? And so I think there's a sense of authenticity to it. And then even with the stuff that's super polished or whatever, it's nice lighting and all that stuff, I think there's still that sense of, you can only really fake it so much, you know what I mean? Like really, I can understand and feel what it's really like. I mean, I look at Amazon products sometimes, like they have a little video that shows how it looks or whatever. And sometimes that means more to me than the photo content. So I think there's a level of authenticity there. And then also to that, like you can feel more via video, I think, than you can sometimes text or photo, which doesn't mean any of these mediums don't have their place. I think that trending wise, I think people are gravitating toward video because it's entertaining, but it's also because I think there's a little bit of authenticity to it too.
Well, I mean, yeah, you can emote, right? I mean, like it's more emotive. Like you can see the emotion or feel the emotion more.
Right. Yeah, totally.
So yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it. I know I went back a question. Sorry about that.
That's okay. No, yeah. So how do most of your clients utilize video? Like what is it they use it for?
Yeah. It was funny in the early days of my career when television was still a big deal, everybody wanted to make a commercial, and it was like a big deal. I remember watching my first commercial on television and thinking, I've made it, I've officially made it in the world because I have a commercial on TV. And it's so funny now that no one asks for that anymore. Like trending wise, like we want YouTube pre-roll. We want vertical video for TikTok. We want, 2-minute brand video for the website. We want a live stream for Facebook. Like it's so funny how now trending wise, everything's moving in this online platform. Right. And so that's what we make a lot of. I'll tell you, I spend the most of my time, I think because I'm kind of focused on that whole story, emotion, all that. A lot of times people need that 2-minute piece or 90-second piece that says, this is who we are. This is why we do it. This is why we exist. I spend a lot of time in that space, and that can be true for a product. It doesn't have to necessarily be brand wide, but this is our new product. This is why we created it. This is how we created it. It's kind of got that behind the scenes feel a lot of times. And so for my clients, I'm spending a lot of time in that space. Now, am I still creating just pure straight marketing stuff? Absolutely. Am I still doing nonprofit, raising support type videos? Of course. But I spend a lot of time in that. Hey, this is the problem we're trying to solve. This is why we exist. And this is how we're, trying to make an impact. So I spent a lot of time in that space.
Sure. Okay. So with that, because you obviously talked about TikTok, what do you think is next in video, right? I mean, what are you starting to see more of? I mean, is it that sort of 15-second content? I mean, what is it?
Yeah, I think it's a mixed bag. I think certainly not everybody needs to, but they feel the need to chase whatever is currently trending, right? And so TikTok is the thing. Vertical video, I now have to factor that into everything. And so there were so many years where all of us professionals just avoided it at all costs because that's not it's not how we were trained. It's not what looks right. It's hard to frame for that, it's all the things. And so, but now I don't think we can avoid that anymore, so every time I shoot something, I now have to factor in, this is potentially going to be cropped or oriented for vertical video use. And then short form, you mentioned that 15 seconds, right? I know TikTok is longer. You can do longer ones now, but everything is so short form. And so some of those longer things where it's like, hey, let's set up the story for a few minutes and then we'll come in with how we're going to position ourselves as a guide. And then we're going to come in and position how, that's hard to do these days. You have to have a really locked in, committed audience for that. And there still is that on YouTube. That still exists. I watch a 20-minute video every once in a while on something, but I have to be committed for that. Mm-hmm. And so often people are scrolling, and I'm totally guilty of it too. If you can't tell me in 60 seconds or 30 seconds, like, I'm probably moving on. Yeah, and so I think trending wise, that certainly is true. And I'm sure you're seeing that in your world, probably even beyond video, right? Like attention spans are short in all things. Is that true for you?
Yeah. I mean, attention span, everyone has the attention span of a goldfish, right? I mean, you have 7 seconds to make an impression. Yeah. Instagram stories are 15 seconds. There was a story I read earlier this week where TikTok is looking at longer form content. Initially, I think they limited it to 60 seconds. Now they're moving to 3 minutes, so you can post a 3-minute TikTok video. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing more of that, and I think because most consumers prefer the short, right? They don't have a lot of time, or if they do have a lot of time, they want to spend it watching a lot of different things, right? So it's not just one video over 3 minutes. If they go watch, 12, that's better for them. So
yeah. I think another trend is the shareability of something, so everybody wants to be able to have discovered, be a part of discovering the next viral thing. And so I think that's kind of a piece too, that we have to factor in is, yes, we're obviously trying to engage this one person, but for it to be good enough for them to want to, share that, because they're looking for things to share. They're looking for the funniest or the most innovative or the most emotional thing that they can then in turn share as part of their feeds and their conversations. So I think that's a trend too that we have to be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, what do you think is next for you in AJ Parker Media? I mean, what's happening in 2023? I mean, what do you think is next for you?
Can I add one more thing to the last question?
Yeah.
So it is kind of tying a couple of things. So authenticity, I think, is a big deal right now, right? So we all know that Instagram and Facebook and whatever, like everything's so polished now, it's become that. It wasn't in the early days, but it is now. And so I think authenticity is the thing, but then also the short form. And so like, I'm really intrigued by this new app, and you and I've talked about it before, this Be Real. Yeah. Where you post, you have 2 minutes to post something, and it's a photo, and I'm sure everybody knows what it is, but I'm discovering it, right? It takes a photo from your front camera and your back camera, and you have 2 minutes, and it notifies you at any time during the day. You don't even know when it's coming. So this whole like polishing it, you can't upload to it. You can't do any of that, right? It's supposed to be really authentic. And so I'm curious, and I don't know how this would work or whatever. I'm curious if video will ever make its way into that type of space, like just the authenticity, but the shortness. If you had a 2-minute window to post a 15-second video, right? What would that look like? I have no idea. It'd probably be super embarrassing, I don't know. But that'd be interesting if that's in the future or not. I have no idea. I'm not talking to anybody at the Be Real app, but it seems to be a popular concept to be super authentic. I'm wondering if video will make its way into that or not.
I'm going to sound like a grandpa. I hate that app.
Oh yeah, I'm struggling with it, but I'm trying to be cool. Like I'm trying to, connect with my teenage kids and younger generation and whatever. I'm trying to be cool about it and not just say, turn that off.
I mean, here's the thing, because I use it, and Grace, so my daughter Grace, she uses it, and she goes, "Have you not done your Be Real today?" And I go, "No," and she goes, "You haven't done it in 3 days." I'm going, I know. So, but she uses it every day.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and all of her friends use it every day. So, I mean, it's a thing. And I think video certainly could be a part of that. I think that would be really intriguing for sure.
The next generation, I tell you what, like, they're smart, for sure. But they also want authentic experiences and all that. They're kind of over the whole, vacation photo thing, I think, or at least they appear to be. So, being in this industry, and because you stay on all the trends, right? Like, we can't just close the door on stuff that we don't like or do like or whatever. The reality is that, hey, if millions of kids, I say kids, teenagers and 20 somethings and 30 somethings are signing up for this thing. There must be a reason,
Sure.
and TikTok, whether you agree with it or not, like the reality is it's a format, you know what I mean? And everybody else seems to like it, whether you like it or not.
I
And
mean,
so, meeting people where they're at, I guess.
the data supports it. I mean, more traffic. There's more traffic on TikTok than Google today, right? I mean, it just it's reality.
Yeah.
And as much as TikTok, I don't mind as much, but I think producing content for it can, in doing it in an authentic and high quality way, is very difficult.
It absolutely 100% is, because it is kind of the rebels platform of, look, if it's not recorded with your phone in selfie mode, like it's not welcome here,
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it's for those of us that like things, lit well and sounding good. It's a nightmare platform, but it's also, I mean, legit, like there's some things I've learned on TikTok that I just did not know, and I'm grateful for that.
Sure.
It's a cool platform. So
Yeah.
yeah, we got to stay up with the times, Nick, you and I.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing that I'm struggling with is, creating authentic content on TikTok, because every client that we have needs it, but all of them are afraid of it. Like none of them really want it, right?
Right.
But they all need it, and so I think that's going to be the struggle. One thing we've talked about here at Forum is that next year is going to be the year of video. Like we've got, that's going to be the thing that we're really going to have to push and talk about with clients. If they're not doing video right now, then they're not, I think they're missing out.
Yeah, I think too, this is back to the trend thing as well, as the slow drip, I think, is a thing now with video. Is that it used to be we would do this massive production and create this big piece, and it took a long time to do and all that, whatever, but it was perfect. And it took months to edit, and everyone in the organization had an input into it. Right. And then it was done, and then it was used, and you didn't do another one for 2 or 3 years. Right. I think that now it's the slow drip. It's the constant. It may not be quite as polished and not as much thought and perfect phrasing in it, but it's the constant in front of people all the time thing. It's a little bit more authentic, a little bit lower production value, right? But it's constant. And I think that anytime we push content for 2 months, 3 months, and then stop, it hurts you. I think you end up going backwards from there. So as brands think about how to, implement video, you talked about, next year being the year of video, like, and you do this so well already, right? It's having a plan, thinking it out in advance, and then just constantly creating content and slow dripping that to your community, rather than boom, we dropped this video and you should have enjoyed that, and we'll see you in a few years,
Well, I mean, in starting this podcast, I mean, we've got another client who wanted to you've done some video for them, and they want to do some more frequent content that's less production quality, more in front of the whiteboard, showing exactly what, the more scientific aspects of their business. And, so we bought a webcam, and, I spent $20 using it right now on this, $20 ring light,
right?
In order to help create that content, so we're spending, they'll spend $100 on the content that they're creating, in terms of gear, and, just turn the camera on and let it roll, so
I think there's a place for it, to be quite honest with you. I'm a professional, and I'd love for, people to hire, my crew and my guys to do, the work that we do. And I think there's a place for it now. Right. I think that you can have your slow drip stuff that, don't spend so much money on it. You know what I mean? Like, just be in front of your audience and give them something important. Don't sell your product 99% of the time. You know what I mean? Give them free stuff, tell them something that may not even have to do with your product, but has to do with the industry. Right. And it's honestly just being in front of your community rather than pushing your stuff all the time. And then when you do have something really important to say, let's say a new product, new service, whatever it is, it can be whatever, then that might be the place where someone who does this for a living is a good partner. Right. And, it may not be worth trying to take that kind of thing on yourself, by yourself. But yeah, I agree with you. Spend a few $100 or $100 and just start creating content. I would say my only advice there would be just have a plan with it. You know what I mean? Like if you just start talking for no reason, then, people probably aren't going to engage very well. But yeah, the slow drip, I think it's important right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about strategy, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about strategy.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I went back and took like 10 minutes of your life away
No,
by
I think
going back to that question. So what was your other one? I can't remember.
Yeah. So the next question was, what's next for you? Like, what's happening with AJ Parker Media next year?
Yeah, that's a great question. I should have a strategy plan for that. I love telling people stories. So anytime it's purpose driven, I'm all for that, right? So I kind of keep my head down and do that kind of thing, right? People ask me, hey, are you going to scale your business and this and that? Are you ever going to sell it? That kind of thing. And that's not my intention at all. I love what I do. I'm very fortunate that I really do just love creating and telling great stories, right? I get to meet all kinds of people. I get to learn about all industries. I know a little bit about a lot. I don't know a lot, about one specific thing. So to me, that's a life I'm enjoying living. Right. And so whether a project is me and my camera, or a project is me, my crew, and they're doing all this, whatever, and we got a big process, I love getting to do and be a part of any of those things. So, honestly, just kind of living the dream right now, Nick. It's great to be able to work with brands like you, where the people are awesome. They basically have a purpose behind what they're doing. And you guys at Forum certainly do that. And so I love that. I get to spend, I'm going to say 30-40% of my time in the nonprofit world, helping tell stories for nonprofits. And as long as I can continue doing that, I feel like that kind of lives into where I started in my career, where my family has always been. So the backstory there is my grandpa and my dad and they worked for Boys and Girls Clubs of America, right? They literally helped raise up the next generation, So my grandpa did that. My dad did that. I started there. I still give back to the Boys and Girls Club all the time, and other nonprofits too. So as long as I'm doing that, I feel like I'm living into my strategy. And the big thing there is that, I want to create great experiences, right? So that can be on screen and off screen. How many times have you and I gotten ice cream on a video shoot, Nick? Because that to me is a fun experience, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
We did that in New York just like a couple of weeks ago. So yeah.
Right. So that's the thing, right? We want people who are watching our videos to have a good experience, when they're watching it. But making videos sometimes is hard, and it's time consuming and it's expensive. And so we might as well have a good time while we're doing that. So that's kind of been my compass, I guess, is doing work that matters in the midst of all of everything, but then also creating great experiences for people on screen and off.
Sure.
So I'm gonna stick to that strategy for the next year.
Yeah. And I think that's what you do best. I mean, all the projects that we've worked on with you, or that I've worked on with you over the past 15 years, I guess, they've all been fantastic, and great company, and that creating the experience is really what you've done a great job of, whether on screen or off.
Well, man, I appreciate that. There's a lot of unsung heroes in that whole thing. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people, and you guys are a great example of, there's so much logistical effort that goes into a video shoot, and people writing stuff and content and strategy and all that. And we're the production company, right? So we end up doing a lot of the execution, and we deliver something you can see and feel. So we get a lot of credit, Yeah, I mean, it feels bad to say that, but we get a lot of credit for that, and yes, we do everything on purpose and everything so that it is a great product, but we're one piece in that chain where, a client, or specifically in your case, at Forum, there's a lot of people that go into making that whole thing feel and look as good as it does. And so, all the other players in the process don't usually get enough credit. It's those of us that turn the camera on and edit the thing that get the applause sometimes, but we appreciate all the stuff you guys do for sure.
Yeah, well, same here. Favorite project or projects, and why? So what are your favorite projects that you've done?
You're looking for a specific project, like type of project, or like specific project?
Specific project.
The one that kind of sticks with me, we did it a couple of years ago. That there was just a fun experience, and I loved how it turned out, and I love the strategy behind it. All three kind of came together. There's a town that's being built on the south side of Atlanta called Trilith. It's associated with Trilith Studios. It's across the street. So Trilith Studios is where a lot of the Marvel stuff is filmed, and I think it's second largest studio now in North America or something. It's growing fast, or busiest, something like that. And so the studio, they're building a town across the street to kind of support the studio. So it's one of those live, work, play things. And so a couple of years ago, they invited us in to kind of tell the story of that. But what I loved about it was fun. I mean, it was fun, and we got to use great camera technology, all this stuff. It was just, it was a great crew. So all that was like a fun, memorable thing. But the strategy behind it was, and this is, I think, why it was one of my favorites, is they wanted to feel what the community is like. And they said, no words on screen, no talking heads, no voiceover. And I was like, wait a minute. So what are we going to say? Right. And they're like, nothing. Like, we don't want to say anything. We only want to feel it. And I was like, dang. Okay. So we took that challenge on, and that was the goal, right? It ended up being a few minute piece. You're right. That showed all the elements of the community, but it wasn't like, and we have restaurants over here. Like, that wasn't the goal. The goal was how do we make it look and feel like restaurants you would want to go to because of the lifestyle. So they're really, trying to sell their brand as a lifestyle. And so that was probably the most fun. I mean, it's a great video. It's shot well. The crew did a fantastic job. Like, it's lit well, like all the things. But I love that you can get the vibe of the brand without saying a single word. There's nothing on screen, no words being said. And it was a challenge. Like, I'm not going to lie. But when you ask about favorite projects, like, sometimes the hardest ones are the best ones, right? Yeah. So that one for sure sticks in my memory bank. Probably will for a while. Sure.
That's awesome. So of course, this is Sneakers and Strategy. So your favorite pair of sneakers and why? We've had this conversation before. I know that the sneakerhead world is new to you, not new to your kids. So
yep. So I'm not a sneakerhead. That's the term. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
I'm not that. I've always envied your shoes, but I don't know what any of them are. So I'm like, man, those are awesome. And you're like, oh yeah, and then you tell me what the name is. And I'm like, cool. Sounds awesome. So my teenage daughter, I've got 3 kids. My teenage daughter, my middle one, she loves all things sneakers. And so she bought me my first pair of cool shoes. Like, for me, I go to the shoe store and I'm like, okay, New Balance, Adidas, whatever, like, they look cool, and I'll just wear those, Yeah. But she is like buying these Jordans and all the things, birthday money, she's buying all the things. She knows all the things. So she designed my first pair of real shoes. Cool shoes, Air Force Ones. She designed them. She was gracious enough to let me pay for them, but she designed them. Right. And so I wore those for a long time, and I did not do all the things you're supposed to do, Nick, that you're teaching me now, like spray them with a thing and wipe them down when you carry them in a box. I didn't do any of that. So they are tore up. So I can't show you those ones because they're all tore up now. Sure. But I was on StockX, which I'm learning is a thing now. And I came across my second pair, and they're my favorites. And I got them right here. I'm going to show you.
Okay. Cool? Yeah.
Have you seen them in person yet?
Yes. I think I've seen.
You've seen them in person. Okay. So they're the what are these, Dunks? Did I get that right? Dunks?
Yes.
Right. I don't know if that's in focus or not, but they're Polaroid themed, right? So they even say Polaroid on the back. Like, that may be impossible to read, but it's the Polaroid color. So as a photo and video guy, like, I love going to video shoots wearing Polaroid inspired Dunks. And so those are my shoes. Everybody thinks they're awesome. Even the people that don't know that they're Polaroid at first, because they don't recognize the colors, they're like, man, those are awesome. And then I explain the Polaroid and all that, and they think it's cool. So those are my new shoes. Second pair, and I'm doing all the things to keep them clean. I like wearing my sneakers though, Nick. Like I like out and about, so it's hard for me to keep them clean.
I don't enjoy wearing my sneakers. Is that what you're saying?
What?
Are you saying that I don't enjoy wearing my sneakers?
No, I'm saying like they don't go in like the box and the tissue paper. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, when I come home, like, they just go in the shoe shelf. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like baby them. Like, I wear them 2 or 3 times a week.
So it drives my kids crazy because I made them put sneaker shields in their new shoes for school. So like, Lorelai got a pair of new Jordans. Yeah. And I made her put plastic sneaker shields in the toes of her shoes just so that way she didn't crease them. And she was like, I hate these. And I was like, I'm sorry, you're keeping them.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, send me an Amazon link to that, because I don't even know what that is. But
okay, yeah. Sure. Yeah. So she doesn't, don't crease the J's. So
That's so funny.
yeah.
Yeah, you've been my educator on all things sneakers, and I'm slowly learning. I mean, very slowly, learning this stuff. So thanks for introducing it to me.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So, well, thank you for your time today
Oh
on
yeah.
the podcast. Thank you for being on the first episode. Um, I think we've got some travel coming up. I'm sure we'll talk again very, very soon. Um, and thank you for all the stuff you do for Forum and our clients. Work is awesome as always. As for the podcast today, please make sure to subscribe, provide a review of this podcast. Podcasts are fueled by reviews, so take a second to and let us know what you thought about it, especially given this is our first episode. And we will see you next week with another episode of Sneakers and Strategies. God bless. Thank you for listening to this episode of Sneakers and Strategies. Please take a second to provide a review on whatever platform you heard this on. And hey, if you enjoyed the podcast, please recommend it to a friend. I really do want to help as many small businesses, nonprofits, and more as I can only do that if they know about the podcast. So please share it. Thanks again, and hope you have an awesome week.